And welcome to the Thursday night Inside Texas live show with my guy, Mr. Evan Veet. How we doing, Evan? Well, Evan's working on audio for just a moment. We'll get him back in.
I'm
There
here.
he goes. He's here. He's here. How we doing, brother?
Good, good. How have you been?
Man, doing good. Just waking up, trying to take a collective breath and settle in for the madness, everyday madness, that is. The portal. We got some horns checking in here early. We have Pablo Picasso, who got scolded by our very own Ian Boyd today. I feel like we've all been scolded at least once by Mr. Boyd. That happens. But welcome, guys. Thank you for being in the chat. And real quick, why don't you hop on over to Inside Texas, talking about that transfer portal bundle deal, 50% off. There it is. And come be a part of our squad, guys. Come join us. And all the fun that we're having, Evan wrote a terrific article over there that we'll be bringing up here shortly. And of course, all the portal updates, team updates, everything you need over there at Inside Texas. Come join us, guys. All right, Evan. Big day. Every day is a big day in the portal.
Yeah,
Pretty
right.
big day as far as movement, and we've had some ups and downs here. I guess perspective is everything, though. We'll start first with Jamie French. Jamie French officially in the portal, 5-star from the Sunshine State. What does this do to you? You know, when you hear Jamie French goes to the portal, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I guess it would happen a few days earlier. I'm not going to lie. Not that I knew anything about it, but yeah, I mean, he was a fringe 5-star, high 4-star guy who probably wasn't going to start again next year, and then he would be battling to start the year after that. And Kalik Lockett had a great game that he didn't really have in the Citrus Bowl. It's always been fighting for more playing time in that first year there, and it just makes sense. This is how the portal is going to work. If you're that talented of a player and you're not going to be even guaranteed year 3 opportunities, I mean, he was probably, if they were to get Coleman or Richardson, whoever it would be, the outside receiver, he'd probably be the 4 or 5 of that group. So I understand it from his perspective. I know people are going to get upset, but he's far from home. He's not going to play in year 2. A lot of money is going elsewhere in the room. I'd love for him to stay around. He's a very, very good player, and he's going to play well for, I don't know, UCF or some team in Florida. But it makes sense. I'm not. That's the one that's not surprising to me of all the ones we've heard.
Absolutely, and you talk about business decisions. You talk about roster management, and this is a guy it's still going to cost a pretty penny to have him around. Well, that entire wide receiver room is getting paid. You want to bring in other guys who are going to get paid, and so I think it's exactly that. It's a business decision on his part, on Texas's part. Most likely, just like Evan said, somewhat buried on the depth chart going in, barring a very, very big spring, and then a couple of other guys maybe regressing or just kind of staying pat. This is where we're at. This is 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This is a guy that you might see as a sophomore or junior really start to flourish and develop. But you're not going to see that in Burnt Orange. He'll probably go somewhere else, and he does play really well because it's pretty special talent out there. But to me, I mean, you also got to take it as a little bit of a good sign about what you have in Kalik Lockett, what you have in Dede McCutcheon, and then maybe where you're standing, with other portal wide receivers, and we'll get more into that later down the line. But yeah, definitely wasn't surprised at all. Definitely something that I could have seen playing out a little bit earlier, as you mentioned, Evan. It's been something where you could kind of see the writing on the wall midway, just a little bit midway kind of through the season, just on little things that you'd hear, and then obviously what you'd see on Saturdays. So best of luck, Jamie. Not everything's going to work out. You're going to see obviously more and more overturn. This is just, again, more of a business than it's ever been before. All right, let's go ahead.
Also, thing on that is, and this is one of for our real readers, guys that love the Paul Woblington articles, one of his rules of the transfer portal in his 30 it's a sign of success for a program if a player leaves and does well after that. Because A, it probably means that you got good guys in front of them, and B, it means you were making the right evaluations. I'd rather Texas have some guys that go and they end up playing well, and you're going, damn, would have been nice to have them. But at least you know that staff's getting the right guys to come in. It just so happened that French couldn't break through year 1, was passed up by 2 different other guys in his class in that time, and Texas is going big fish hunting outside of it. It makes sense, but it would be cool if he goes and plays well at a Florida school or someone else. Maybe not in the SEC, but that's a sign of a healthy program. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that Texas is a healthy program right now, but they could be doing worse.
Texas a healthy program, man. If you were hopped on any social media platform in the last week, hard to believe. But all right, we'll get off of Jamie French. Definitely wishing the guy best of luck. Until he sees Texas, if that ever does happen. Now let's look at Mr. Zena. You'll probably pronounce his last name better than I will. Definitely, in my opinion, somebody that you want to have around. But when you start to look at the details of that relationship and that negotiation, it makes a lot of sense. What do you have to say about Zena hitting the portal today?
Yeah, before we talk about Zena, Will Davies in the chat, would you believe if I told you every single light in my room is on right now? I mean, I got an overhead, I got a ring light, I got a light right next to me. It's depression hours in here, unfortunately, no matter how I light it. But yeah, that's one I was not happy about. I mean, I get that he wasn't going to start in theory because of Lance Jackson, but defensive line is a position where you rotate so much that he was going to be that third edge rusher, that first guy off the bench. In years past, that was Ethan Burke. This past year, that was Jackson, or maybe you'd say it was even Umeazulu himself or Brad Spence. It's getting a little thinner in that edge room as you look at it, because if Brad Spence and Justice Terry are both edge rushers, then it's great. If not, then you're looking at two starters with Jackson and Simmons. Then you're looking at Colton Vosick, and then a lot of unproven guys. I mean, talented players, Orogbo, Wesley, Carlton, not a lot of proven production. So I would like them to go and get one guy. I know they've been kind of hunting for that Jaden Woods or Gregory, I believe, from Oklahoma State. And if they get Gregory, that would be awesome. But I'm fine with just replacing Zeno with a 1-year, fifth-year grad transfer, just have a guy who can set the edge on a run and maybe get after the passer a little bit, because you're playing opposite of Colin Simmons. You don't have to be the number one guy and go win. And I also don't want them to put too much money into that if it's going to stop them from getting O-line, linebacker, or wherever else.
No, I fully agree with what you said there. You know, when you talk about the money that was involved here, you know, that somebody may pay Zena, what the rumored number may be, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's not going to be Texas quite clearly. And I think, yes, you can put that request to better use. And so, as you said, it hurts from the depth standpoint. Texas is a football team that wants to go play 15, 16 games next season, ideally, obviously, play into mid-January again. You're going to need these depth pieces. Injuries are going to happen. Fatigue is going to happen. What do we have? 8 straight conference games to finish 2026. And, that's a big thing. And so for all the negativity that Texas has kind of gotten in the portal, there's, I'd say, definitely less than a handful that have really, really kind of hit me as like, dang, that's going to hurt a little bit. But Zena, as of now, that would be one of the names that is bothering me some. But let's see what Texas does in replacing him. Obviously, quite clearly, they're after another edge. We've seen you've seen them go after Woods. They don't have to go. Rumors of Gregory visiting. Is that later in the week, Evan? This week?
I think so. I need to reread up on that. Don't quote me on that.
No, you're great. Again, that's what I believe I saw, but not sure as well. This is a pretty good comment there. A fond farewell for Mr. Jamie French. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it could be worse. You're not losing Colin Simmons, or you're not losing Lance Jackson. You know what I mean? So, but you do have to find those guys some depth. They're not just going to be able to go out there, obviously, every snap, every game. So Texas is going to need to find a competent body to come in there to be that next edge rusher, coming off the bench, as Evan just said and alluded to. And so we'll see what the staff cooked up. It seems that they've had many contingencies, that they've already had to turn to. And I doubt that, there's just no plan there as well. They're going to be something. So let's just see what and again, if it is Gregory, I'm happy about that.
It probably means that they're more confident than behind the scenes about Orogbo and Carlton and Wesley. And specifically, it would be Carlton and Wesley. I think it'd be stupid for Orogbo to wait a year and then just completely portal out. But Muschamp probably came in and said, this dude's only 16 years old about Richard Wesley. It's like, we can have him start him when he's 18 as a redshirt freshman sophomore and be completely fine with the Umeazulu not being there, because Zena did have 3 years of eligibility left. He redshirted his first year. So that would have been a guy that you're losing a little bit of long-term production, but it probably means that behind him, they're feeling comfortable.
Yeah, no, that's a good point as well. And again, Texas has recruited some really dang talented classes in the last couple of cycles. And I know that we want proven experience, but there are going to be a couple of those guys that come up and are big contributors for this team, and people that maybe aren't getting enough, or guys that aren't really getting the credit from the fan base, for their growth and development. Again, we'll see what Texas does there, but do we need as many edge guys with Muschamp's different line setup? What do you think there, Evan?
It's yes and no. You need more specialization, which is where I think it hurts Vosick a little bit. And Zena the same way, because Zena was kind of really well fit for that Pete Kwiatkowski where you do multiple edge duties, even if you're a buck or a jack. But right now Colin Simmons is an edge. He is out as far as he can be. He's going to drop into the flat a little bit. And Lance Jackson is a defensive end in the most literal sense of both of those things where he's lined up. So it just means that depending on where they want Justice Terry, they might need a guy to back up Jackson. Depending on where they want Vasic, they might need a guy to back up Simmons. I don't think they should go and get a starter unless Gregory really likes the place and thinks that he can develop well here and have a final season where or just wrecking stuff on the defensive line. But yeah, like this should be a depth piece. They're fine on the edge rusher. I'm very sure Colin Simmons is going to be the best pass rusher in the country next year.
Yeah, I think that's the way that he finished the season. I mean, he was the best pass rusher in the last half of this year. My eyes pretty clearly, which again is kind of shocking that he did not land more postseason honors. But
Right.
you know, we're a little bit over that. We got an Evan Cussword, and we didn't even have to have the rave lights on to get it. You know,
does this even do anything? No, not really.
Oh man, worth a shot though. Worth a shot.
Yeah.
Does Zena really hurt if you wanted a 400% raise? I mean, it hurts for a half a second because you're just saying, hey, this is not something that we're going to be involved in. You wish a guy luck, and then you go ahead and you make plans to bolster that position group, you know, without him. And so, you know, no, it doesn't hurt. I mean, you just know that and know and hope that, you know, Texas, or rather you hope that Texas is going to find a competent replacement because, again, you got to have that depth piece. You got to have cast on the D-line. Saw what Texas did on the interior of the D-line last year. They're not going to do that at edge, but definitely need to go after at least another body there. Damon Wilson, that would be interesting. Fantastic player.
Expensive.
But do you want to go to court? You want to pay all that and then still have to deal with the chance of litigation and a drawn out court. Hey man, he's a stud. I loved him when he went from. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying I wouldn't take him. I'd say almost deal with it there. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. Just feeling like our turn of key positions are not keeping up with recruiting, portal needs, cycles. You know, I mean, we're pretty solid at a corner right now. We're pretty solid at edge rusher. But again, tackle, you know, on the offensive side of the ball, you know, looking pretty solid there. So some of my key positions, you know, I'm happy with where we're at, but definitely, you know, you want to stay on top of those things. You're going to lose the Colin Simmons next year. You're probably going to lose one of your tackles, if not both. What are your thoughts there? What are your key positions? Everybody has a position or two that they just love, but what do you think?
It's the NFL ones, right? QB, tackle, wide receiver, edge, cornerback. Most important position is QB. So the most important position after that is the one who gets after the QB. So then the next most important position is the one who guards the QB. And then it's the guys who are catching the ball or guarding the ball from the QB. You look at it, you got Arch Manning, you got Colin Simmons, you got Trevor Gooseby and Brandon Baker. Phillips and Masco I'm pretty excited for. I think that's going to be a good duo, as well as Black and Roberson. There's literally only one of those spots that I'm even a little bit concerned about, and it's opposite of Wingo or Mosley, whichever one's the more outside guy next year. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to get Cam Coleman, but they are firmly in the running for Cam Coleman. And suddenly you have arguably the best QB, edge, wide receiver and tackle in the SEC. I'm pretty happy about that. Going forward, I might see some concerns if Zena's gone and who's going to play tackle next year. Is that going to have to be portaled? I think still Lockett and Bishop are going to hold it down at receiver. Cornerback, I think they got some guys like Samari Matthews coming. They have multiple years of eligibility from Littleton and Phillips. So I'm not really concerned about it. It's really the ones where you can find portal success. Interior O-line and linebacker, which I assume we'll get to a little bit later, Gordon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We have to because it's a big need, man. And again, we talked a little portal last night. We kind of talked about where the next acquisitions needed to come from. Again, at this point, you're like, hey, let's add talent wherever, you know, let's not get personally have a personal bias with it because we all want O-linemen. You know, I want somebody that can protect Arch. I want somebody that can run block. And from there, just naturally Sark's job, Arch's job, everyone's job gets a lot easier regardless of who you have in the backfield. And Texas picked up a couple guys today, and we'll get to that in 1 second. But first, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor, Miss Laura Baker.
If you're looking for a home in the Austin area, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. Laura's a part of the elite Andy Allen team at Keller Williams Realty. She's helped Longhorns find their dream homes all over Central Texas. You can just ask our very own Ian Boyd, who moved from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Whether you're searching in Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, San Marcos, or even parts of the 254 or the 210, Laura has you covered. So call 512-784-0505, or you can email her at laura@andyallenteam.com. She's a Longhorn, a friend of Inside Texas, and the person you need to call to get your next home in Central Texas. Call Laura Baker today. Contact info is in the description.
Alrighty, guys, back to some portal talk. Texas, a running back position, obviously quite a hot topic here in the last week, but they have added Arizona State's Raleek Brown. What does that acquisition do for you? Do you think Verleek is a guy who can come in and be an every down back? Obviously, people talk about his explosion, his burst. We've seen a hurdle or two even there in the tape. What are your thoughts on Verleek and what this offense can do with Verleek?
Yeah, there's some every down back in him. I think more so with Baugh and if you'd gotten Brown, one of those two away from their spots, those are true number ones. I would say Verleek is a little bit more of a 1A, but I'm fine with him being the best back in this room. He's explosive. He's got such good breakaway yardage stats and missed tackles forced and all those things. I know the yards after contact's not quite what you're looking for, but that's where maybe Christian Clark is just a good number 2 next year. Derek Cooper emerges. I'm still not against the idea of adding one other like very low risk investment grad transfer type at that spot. If that means you can't get Clark or Simon back, fine. Let's just go with the 2 running backs that we've got here. But I really like him. He's really fast. There's some plays I saw circulated on Twitter. It's like if Verleek Brown has this carry and not Weiser or Baxter, how many more yards are we getting from this just speed alone? So you know what? I mean, Texas went after 2 guys that weren't actually in the portal, swung and missed at pitches that were never even thrown, and they still got a top 3 back in the portal and really a top 2 back because Caleb Hawkins was just going to go return to that team at Oklahoma State. You're not going to leave that kind of offensive coaching staff. So Smothers and Verleek Brown were the 2 best, and Texas got one of them. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. My only concern is what I asked you in the very first question. Can he hold up with the grind of an SEC schedule and being an every down back or beating the lead back? That is the biggest question mark I have about Verleek Brown. But at the same time, man, it's hard not to get very, very excited watching the tape and seeing the explosiveness of him. Obviously, I think he was really well coached at Arizona State. I think he'll continue to be well coached here. But when you tie in, because it's not like he's just a straight downhill runner. The guy's got some wiggle. He can do a lot of different things. He's got hands. How do you see Sarkisian using him as, in the backfield? Is it more of is it potentially a guy like Ryan Niblett? Probably not, who you just saw come in and you'd see a ton of motion. Pretty obvious, but do you see some of that motion with the orbit stuff, even maybe some jet type stuff? Do you see him being used as, a little more creatively, than we've used our backs in the last couple of years?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Jaden Blue is the easiest one-to-one comparison for him because you're talking about elite speed, maybe a little bit concern about him going in between the tackles, but Brown's a more complete back than Blue is, at least when it comes to ball security and being able to do more things in totality as a running back. Now, Blue was blisteringly fast, fantastic hands for a running back, and that's what got him drafted in the 4th round, but he did have the fumble problems, and I think Brown can emulate some of that. Just quick RB swing routes, like you said, orbit motions around. I wonder if Sark's going to use a little bit of 21 personnel if he gets a second running back he can trust, or have him and Niblett in the same backfield. That's a package that would be a lot of fun because that's where you can just kind of move a guy around, give him the ball in space, and similar to what we do with Wingo here, like he's going to be a really good guy to have going left and right and east and west and not having to go barrel forward and do an offensive line because it's probably going to be easiest to run to tackles anyway and to tight ends with the group that they've got of Gooseby, Baker, Masunis, and Townsend going forward. So I'm excited for it, of course, and I know everyone's going to be talking about this in the comments. It all matters what you do in the interior. Maybe Robertson's back, maybe he's not. Either way, you need 2 guards. So we'll see with that.
We got to have 2 guards, man. I don't think that anybody is going to argue with you at that. And road graders would be great, man, because we just haven't seen a lot of, been a little bit weak at the point of attack there in the last couple of seasons. We haven't really seen a lot of bodies moving. Almost more so guys just being in the way and clogging up our own holes and blocking from what we're trying to do on offense rather than blocking defenders. And I said that poorly, but I think y'all get the point. And so, we definitely need some guards. That's going to be huge for me and for everybody else watching Texas and kind of deciding what the floor and the ceiling is for that offense in 2026. What do you think about the offensive guard? We've seen, I believe Ian said he has starter potential. We saw that in the comment just a little bit above this one. I'll try and find it. But then also you have, Eric on the boards kind of alluding to him potentially just being added as a depth piece.
I'm fine with either. If he's one of the guards, I'd want 3 because that is the wanting to have depth, wanting to have just in case having battle. From what Eric said, it seems like a lot of Sark's pitches to everyone, retention or addition, is you're going to be fighting for a spot no matter what. Like you are not a starter because I told you so in January. You're a top starter because of what you do March through August. So I'd like to bring him in. He's big. I mean, 6'4", 330 is kind of what you're looking for. That's what Kyle Flood likes in the interior. And maybe Oregon State did it a little better than he did I personally don't know a lot about him, just because I don't watch a lot of Oregon State and don't really focus on their interior lines if I do. So if it's a guy that Ian likes, I trust that. If it's a guy that's just a depth piece because you lost Nate Kibble, I'm also fine with that. I think both scenarios are good.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He would be better than what we just trotted out at left guard for the last 13 games. I mean, and that's fairly obvious from watching about 2 minutes of his tape. Does a really good job in pass protection. I don't believe he's allowed a sack in about 325 or 335 career snaps rather. That would be a hell of a lot of college football. It's like got 10 COVID
redshirt sophomore.
Guy's 40 and he's got grandkids almost, and he's still out there running it for the Beavers. But yeah, I mean that's you want to have that depth, because we saw injuries on the O-line last year, and we saw guys just simply not work out, and so you can't leave yourself with the limited options that Texas just left itself. We've already played this game, and we're not going to do it again. I feel pretty confidently about that, or at least we better not. But moving on a little bit, let's go ahead and talk about the second portal ad of the day, Mr. Zion Williams from Lufkin, Texas. Now, Texas was obviously in that recruitment for Zion coming out of high school. Me personally, I talk a lot. One of the best friends in life is still a coach over in Lufkin, and just didn't really know if it was a fit for LSU and Zion, and so this is kind of something I've had my eye on, just because, and many have, the other folks were of that same exact opinion. Some, that people are already, my LSU friends are trying to say, hey, he's washed. You don't want him. Like, he's washed. He's like 19 years old. How are you washed? He didn't play. And how many times do you see an interior lineman come into the SEC and play as a true freshman and really, really contribute? You know what I mean? That is a position, obviously, that takes development. It takes you're working on your body and putting your body into the right shape that it needs to be in. But what are your thoughts? Texas had Zion Williams from Lufkin, Texas.
Yeah, scheme fit. That's the big thing with him. You needed more nose tackles in this Will Muschamp defense, because it's closer to a 3-3-5 than we've seen Texas play in quite some time. So you just need that big two-gapping guy in the middle. And I like Brevard. He's going to be the starter, I think, if you're talking about truly the nose tackle. But after him, it was no experience. And I know Williams also doesn't really have experience, but at least there's options now, and that there's more depth in that room. You already lost Hills and Levon Johnson. If you can get a guy who kind of just wanted to come to Texas anyway, the staff moves over from Kelly to Kiffin, excuse me. It's a take. It's a guy that you want. Needs size in the interior, and he's a big dude. That is a large human being right there, and that's seems like Texas is getting a lot of those guys in the trenches with Muschamp coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, seems like Will might have a type. Great comment here. Zion doesn't like you.
I saw you chuckle. I was wondering which one you were looking at.
I can't help it, man. I saw that pop out. I saw yoga, and then I was like, oh, this has got to be a Lane Kiffin comment. So for those wondering why maybe it didn't work out, we now have our answer. Pablo has painted that picture perfectly for us. Hey, I would like that too. What do you think about the D lineman from Richardson?
Remind me who that is.
Tell us his name, Cotton, because that's. I'm about to say there's so many stokes in the fire right now.
They go after a lot of defensive linemen. I don't know if you guys have noticed that in recruit. There's always like 9 dudes who are within reach every single cycle, so it's hard to keep track.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And again, you have to. Something doesn't work out. That's a position group that you have to have, and you have to have many big bodies for. And so Texas, you saw them last year, obviously. Go pretty heavy on the interior D line. Don't think that they'll be doing that, but definitely wouldn't mind them taking maybe one more body there. Hey man, it's okay, Mr. Alito. I trust me.
Silas Bolden.
First, yeah, there you go. For one, Silas Bolden, but for two, man, like it's better than what we just had. I promise. So you don't want to go through that cycle again. I think it would still be a plus add, and again, it could just be a depth piece. Your take on this was pretty solid, man. 3 guards ideal, 2 to start, and 1 is depth, maybe a swing tackle. I like that a lot. But yeah, with Zion Williams, again, do you expect any contribution from Zion in his first season in Burn Orange, or do you think maybe he's still a season away?
Probably a season away. I'd expect. Yeah. I mean, that's one where you just have Greffard do it for 1 year. He graduates, and hey, he or Sharma, you guys got a very open battle to be that number 1 nose tackle, and there's still room for another guy to be the number 2. But yeah, I think the group is clearly the Arkansas transfer, Kanu, January, Watson as your most important 4, and that's usually about what teams play with this 4. And you still have Justice Terry as a guy who's sort of in that group. So those are the names I would be focusing on. But Williams has a chance, and he'll definitely play in the out-of-conference the early 2 games.
Yeah, fully agree with every word, man. This is a guy that you'll see his best ball not in 2026. Still working on his body. Still going to have to learn to do things the Will Muschamp way. And sorry not to be corny there, but I mean, every scheme is different, or most schemes are different. And so Texas has this set rotation already, in my opinion. Whether they add another guy or not, as Evan just said, that group is pretty entrenched, on the depth chart. And so, yeah, 2026 will be the first year where if Zion didn't do something on the football field, 2027, if he didn't do anything on the field, that would start to give me a little bit of concern. But of course, there's a lot to keep track of with his development between then and now. But yeah, can't wait to see him in an early season. And then again, maybe surprises, maybe part of the conference rotation, you never know. Yeah. But it's a little bit of light at the end of the portal tunnel. All right, guys, we talked last night about, finally being open, or eventually we'll be open, the Texas wrapped gifts under the Christmas tree. Eventually it'll be our turn. We're not waiting on cousins or sisters or whoever, the younger kids, to go ahead and get theirs. Eventually, we'll get our turn, or we'll be able to have a little bit of fun. Maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg for Texas. It kind of feels, like there could be a lot more coming, and it could be very, very soon, because the portal's not open for too much longer there. Real quick before we go to our second sponsor break, Evan, you personally, if you were to hear Texas, same question I asked in Nash last night, if you were to hear Texas got to commit tonight, what position group would you need it to be from the most? What's your personal preference?
I think, given some context, probably linebacker, but guard is the spot that they need to add the most. That is the number one priority. It's also the number two priority for this team. So linebacker or guard, those are what I'm going to say.
Yep, same thing here. And I feel like some people today, that they're not quite as excited about potential, about the add of Raleek Brown, strictly because they're like, well, who's going to block for him? And so, still a big question. But again, we were asked earlier if Texas would be interested in anybody that is still playing college football right now in the college football playoffs. You can't really talk too much about that, because these are guys, for one, that are still playing and, haven't entered the portal yet. But there's always that chance. There's definitely always that chance, especially when you have one of these programs who has had such a big turnover as far as coaching goes, and will continue to, to have roster and coaching turnover here in the next couple of weeks. Hey, maybe Texas has a plan there. We'll see. We've heard a few things about that. But all right, let's go to our second sponsor break of the night. Evan and I will keep talking portal right after we hear from Mr. David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
And I want to talk about this comment real quick from Mr. David Keith, my guy in here commenting as always, and do appreciate all y'all commenting right now. Let us know your thoughts on every topic we bring up, because it's fun to see how you think. Everybody thinks a little bit differently, so curious to think, or to hear what you guys have to think and say about the program. But Mr. Keith, or David Keith Williams, says many think transfer portal recruiting is more important than high school football recruiting, but it's not. Texas cannot continue going to the portal every year and getting 3 nose tackles. Is the Lane Kiffin style of recruiting, which is very, very heavily portal, or leaning portal, is that sustainable? Do you think, can a school like Texas or LSU or Florida, whoever it may be, can they live by going in and finding 15 to 25 portal ads every single? I mean, Ole Miss has taken more than that at times, but is that a sustainable way of success?
It can get you one, I do think. I mean, we're seeing with Indiana right now, where I know some of their portal guys are really just JMU dudes, but I think this is the team that's probably going to win the national championship. They're my favorite right now, and they are very, very, very portal heavy. I do think long term, like DKW is saying, that's not the general process you want. That relies upon what Indiana is doing. Just the best coach in college football right now. And if it were to be Miami, it also would rely on one portal or one recruiting class that's really good getting together at the perfect time when you're having the perfect portal pickups. And that's that 2023 class from Miami. And in some ways, their freshman class this year coming together with really good portal ads back in, and some of the guys on their defensive side of the ball, as well as Malachi Tony being a true freshman, and Ruben Bain, and Francis Maligoa. What I do agree with DKW that you're starting to see Tech and Indiana do is Texas Tech is getting 5 stars now. They see that in 3 years, if they're continuing to portal like this, but they already have those impossible to get portal players like Colin Simmons, like Arch Manning, Trevor Gooseby, guys that won't hit the portal because they're so good and they're such highly touted players that these top teams will do anything to keep them there. They're going to start to have those guys. That's when it gets really scary for Texas Tech because they have those guys at the important positions like the 5 we've talked about. And then they're also getting those wide receivers and running backs and D linemen to come in and go play ball for them in the portal. So I think you're going to see a lot of guys that are in that Indiana, Texas Tech, Ole Miss thing start to go after 4 or 5 really important recruits every year, and then kind of go, I don't care what happens after that. It's fine if we don't get the depth we need because we have the money in the portal to do so. So you're going to start to see teams go a little bit back towards that middle ground because there's Georgia and Texas all the way out here with one to recruit. Ole Miss, Indiana, Texas Tech have to be in the portal. You want to be in the middle, I think, is where you want to end up at.
Yeah, you absolutely want to still be known for being able to develop the talent that you bring to campus as out of high school. And yeah, I agree with you. Tech, you can see the big vision from Tech. I think it's pretty evident by pretty clear to everyone now. And again, I think they're doing they're doing the whole recruiting game a little bit better than most because they are attacking the positions that are very, very important, as you talked about earlier. Like they are pretty loaded at edge and have done a really good job putting an emphasis on there and recruiting. And this is not to make it a Texas Tech show, or just is this sustainable? You have to be able to develop. You still have to be able to recruit pretty elite talent. But at the end of the day, Texas's last national title was 20 years ago. At the end of the day, I feel like you take any chance you have at a national championship. And so if you need to add 20 guys to put yourself and your team in the best position to do that, I think you take your 20 guys. If it's 10, 12, I just think you just maybe taking that many every year just because like, hey, that's my thing, or I think that's what's best. I don't know about that. I think we'll really get a pretty good idea about Lane Kiffin and LSU, and if that is going to work out, because man, they're going to be able to recruit some elite talent. They always have, and so maybe he doesn't go to the portal quite as much. Maybe you see less and less. But for me personally, I definitely want to see Texas be a program that is able to develop, hold on to their talent, and then fill what they're lacking with go through the portal to do so.
Steve is implying the D line and O line are the 2 positions you just got to be able to have full succession plans for over and over.
Right. And there's times you miss. There are times that kids get hurt. There are times that kids leave on their own accord. And when some of these, I'll call them middle of the road schools and teams are, going by their standard in college football, when they're setting their own market, they're going to be able to pull some of this youth when you're like, man, this guy in 2 years, maybe I'd pay that for him. And maybe you get a chance to. But so, yeah, I definitely think you have to go into the portal and you have to be very aggressive at a few positions, obviously offensive line, defensive line being one of them. But if you can always pick up another edge rusher, pick up another edge rusher. If you can find another guy that just is at safety and is a great communicator, gets guys on the ground, hey, I think those things got to be looked at. You know what I mean? So again, more of a pro roster management, more GMing from the GMs and the head coaches than they've ever had to do. But yeah, I mean, we'll time will tell what does Texas do there down the line. We will see. We got are these spam comments? I've never seen us get spammed in here. The Ole Miss first. Yeah, there we go. We're getting spammed. Sick. But yeah, appreciate that, Mr. IOYEFAD. We will be tuning in very soon. And again, I flipped my mind about 5 times. I'm finally settling with Miami. Just so I'm saying it live here. I guess that game's about to kick off. You got a pick in that one, Evan?
Yeah, I'm all sticking Miami.
Okay. Last night I got on here and said I was taking Ole Miss, but we've flipped already. They're going to win in the trenches and they're going to win in the red zone. But all right, let's talk about your article that you put on IT. And if you have not read Evan's IT, it is a very, very solid piece. Honestly, one of my favorite pieces from anyone I've seen in the portal. In this portal window. Evan, first, what kind of just when did those thoughts come to mind, man? And then tell everybody your overall kind of theme of your article, brother.
just generally hearing people talk about the portal in our group chats, and I think Eric kind of talked to me about, hey, do you want to do the blue bloods in the transfer portal article? And so I really formulated it all last night, put it to paper this morning. But yeah, for those who haven't read it, the title is "Why Are Blue Bloods all of a sudden struggling in the transfer portal?" And I don't know exactly where you want me to start with this, Court. I'll throw it back to you, but there's a lot of info in there.
I was going to say we could pull it up for just a second here, but I got to log in real quick. If you can pull it up per screen share, that'd be great too. I don't know why I'm not logged in here. Let's see here. There we go. But yeah, I mean, it's not that Texas is the only school that's out there struggling with the transfer portal so far. And struggling is, again, I think it's all about perspective, because you talk about what Evan said earlier, and Jaden Ball wasn't in the portal. Isaac Brown wasn't in the portal. Louisville's been able to hang on to pretty elite talent 2 years in a row now. So at some point, yeah, they're doing a great job. I'm a big fan of that coaching staff, and tip your cap. They were able to hang on to Chris Bell last year. Texas made their play there, and again, they're able to do so with Isaac Brown here. And I'm looking for the article now. I should have had it pinned up here. But either way, it's not just Texas. You're going to see Ohio State struggling a little bit. You're seeing an Alabama struggling a little bit. And so here we go. Let's get that screen shared.
No, Paulo, don't tell Eric.
Don't tell Eric?
Yeah, again, the paywall stuff behind it. Yeah, I mean, I can go into the first part of the article, which is
it's always
just talking about where we're at in the process. So basically, this is not the only blue blood program that is struggling, and blue blood I may be using a little too liberally. These really, really good recruiting schools in this current era of college football. There have been 5 that are consistently in the top 5 pretty much year in and year out, bar a class or two. It's Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Georgia. If you just go and look at their portal classes right now, they have a combined 4 top 100 commits in the portal between those 5 teams, 5 powerhouses. Texas has 2 of those in Masco and Raleek Brown. Oregon only has specialists right now. So I know it's easy to say Texas needs to do more and they want to get more out of it. They are ahead of the pace when it comes to these other teams out here, your Ohio States, your Georgias. If you haven't noticed, Ohio State fans, I saw someone say the name in the comments here, are not happy with Bo Jackson, their freshman running back, he's asking for an astronomical price for his services, and I get it. Really good true freshman runner, but Texas isn't the only team that's dealing with this. When you are living in the world of recruiting high-level talent, it means that you're paying a lot of money for players to be on the bench, which then means you don't want to pay that money for them to be on the bench. So you have to decide, are you going to start for me next year, even though I don't really know how good you are? Am I going to pay you a ton of money to kind of be a rotational or even a pure bench player? Or am I going to tell you we're cutting your prices, we're cutting your wages, and you can go somewhere else if you'd like to? That's probably happened with a lot of players right now. I'd hate to say it. A lot of the guys that you just come to your mind when you hear that, that's what the case is. And Texas is trying to get Bo Barnes back. They worked it with Derek Williams out. I think they can do it with Barnes in theory, but that's another player that was a really highly touted recruit, number 1 linebacker in his class. But we can't trust him to be a starting linebacker next year. But he needs to leverage that 5-star on his contract to say, I am going to go out and get the money that I deserve and go and play somewhere. So all these schools are hurting. If anything, Texas is doing the best out of those programs, apart from, I guess, Oregon, because Oregon's in the Final Four. But it's just a tough time to be those teams who have to live in the recruiting world, because that's the way you get these elite talents.
That is exactly that, man. And we won't post the article. Just going to get y'all the title up there. That's so you see it. Why are all the blue bloods all of a sudden struggling in the portal? And again, Evan did a fantastic job with that, so you need to go check that out. There's the title. But making your point, man, that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Some of these, and again, I feel so bad calling them middle of the road programs, but some of these programs that are not blue bloods, I'm not gonna call them new bloods either, because not everybody, I feel like, deserves that. But they're gonna drop bags. I mean, they're gonna tell these kids that, hey, you may not have played much last year, but we know what you're worth, and you can come over here, you can play immediately. You don't have you're gonna fight for a spot still. You're an athlete. but your chances to playing on this green field out here are a lot higher. So, and hey, we'll also pay you more money. So you got to understand, that's definitely part of this. Like Evan just said, Texas isn't the only school dealing with it. A lot of these big schools are dealing with it. Everybody, I feel like, has had a loss where fans have maybe scratched their head and like, man, everything's going great, but hey, why did we let this guy leave? Well, sometimes you're making that tough business decision, and so you've seen that. And I think, Evan again, go check out his article. He did a really good job just talking about the overall landscape, because that's kind of where we're at right now. Is I don't think you naturally, hey, we're gonna pay players and we're gonna have a transfer portal window. Well, naturally you're thinking, oh, the Ohio States, the Texases of the world, the LSUs, et cetera, they're just naturally going to clean up. But you're starting to see these other schools who are really, really putting their best foot forward, because they know there's more parity in college football than ever, and that with the right strike of the lightning, you can put together a contender. And if not one portal season, through two, if you're getting the right guys, you can really, really add and build a team with this whole dang thing. Again, Texas is about to hit it too. All right, so just give it a little patience, a little more time. I know we say that a lot, and we get kind of get on us for saying that too much.
Well,
you think?
Let me make an analogy here. Like recruiting in college football is offense. That's where you're going and getting players. You're trying to go into neighborhoods and backyards of programs in Florida and USC and getting their talent. The transfer portal is a completely defensive game. That's all it is for these programs. Think about the defense Texas had to play this year. And I know Arch wasn't going to go to another school, but he could have gone to the draft if he really wanted to and probably been a top 3 pick. You're talking about retaining Arch Manning, Ryan Wingo, Trevor Gooseby, Brandon Baker. Let's throw in Nick Townsend and Emmett Mosley on the offensive side of the ball. Colin Simmons, Lance Jackson, Justice Terry, who's not an assured starter next year. Hero Kanu, Alex January, Tyanthony Smith. I'm running out of names, or I keep going with names, and I'm 12 deep already. They had to play so much defense in this portal cycle while also having to go and try to go play offense against Louisville and Michigan and Florida. And you know what? Those guys played a really good game of defense too. Florida did a great job. They identified their few guys that they must have. Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown, Jaden Woods, Jaden Baugh. Yep. And they got all 4 of those guys back. It didn't really matter what happened outside of that. So if they want to win next year and in the future with some of those freshmen, they need to have those players on their team. So Texas going and being the aggressor there and not getting those players does not mean that they struck out or anything. It was that they needed to get those guys in and then get them to Texas. The defense that those other programs played were really good. These are good and well-run programs around the country. It's not as simple as I want and I take in this environment. So that's why Michigan brought back their guys. That's why you're not going to get these elite guys going to Texas. And still, Auburn didn't play defense with Cam Coleman, and now Texas is very much in the running for the best player that's hit the portal. Maybe since Caleb Downs. I don't know. Last year's number 1 guy was like Carson Beck. So I'd say the best guy that's hit it since Caleb Downs, maybe.
I think that's a fair claim, to be honest. And really, really good points there. I mean, Texas's offer to Ed Sprague was more than what Michigan was offering. It's not all about just, hey, here's your bag. We're going to, welcome to the club. Again, the point was made last night. You're talking about packing up, moving across the country for some of these guys while they're already in pretty comfy situations. And so, again, credit to Kyle Whittingham, credit to John Summerall, guys that held on to their dudes. And, again, part of my tipping the cap, because it's going to be like that sometimes. There's going to be guys that, I mean, how many programs came after Xavier Worthy, while he was at Texas? And Texas always found a way to hang on to him because Sark absolutely had to. And so, again, a great point on the Florida guys. They went 4 for 4. They had to go 4 for 4 because you can build a lot around that, because you're talking about a running back too. Talking about running back, receiver, edge rusher. You know what I mean? Like, these are really, really important positions and positions that they're set up really, really well in. And so, again, a lot of building for that Florida team to do. But they held on to, what the nucleus was, and they had to do that. Yeah. So can't call it, I think we had said last night, you can call it technically a miss because you're allocating time, you're allocating resources to go after these guys. But I mean, again, I think that's perspective, and I don't think either answer there would be wrong, whether you call it a miss or you say it's not a miss. And I think that'd be personally a pretty silly argument to have. We can go for another 5 to 10 minutes, get everybody out here, watch the Ole Miss and Miami. Let's talk about the guy that we keep alluding to. Evan said his name a couple of times, but Cam Coleman, you started to see a little bit more good news about Cam Coleman, from some weird places today, but also inside Texas. You saw boss man Eric Naline raise his percentage from, I believe, 60 to 65 to 70%, somewhere in that range for Cam Coleman. You saw Billy Lucci sit there and come out and say a little bit about what he thought was going on. But yeah, Evan, what's your take on Cam Coleman and where Texas currently sits with a guy that could be making a decision by the end of the weekend?
Oh, I'm just glad we're finally getting to a decision, right? It feels like that's the domino effect. One is what's he going to do? Two is Sam Levitt. Is he just waiting for Oregon to lose and then he can hear Dante Morris to say he's leaving to the draft and then all these other quarterbacks can commit elsewhere, or what's going on with that? Those are the two ones that I think we're going to see a clear secondary part of this portal process once those guys are committed. Coleman's case, like Ayers pointed out, I don't know if they're going to have the best financial offer, but he does have to take a long, hard look and say, can I say no to Arch Manning throwing me the football with all these other Austin area investment identities? And also, I still want to be a top 15 pick, and that's my best chances to go to Texas and go do that.
And maybe Lucy did curse us. I don't like that he tweeted that. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to holler at him the second this ends and ask what the hell he was doing. But I will say this. It feels really good, as Evan said, to be close to a decision. I'm tired of waking up every day and thinking like, all right, let's see what the Cam Coleman visit schedule is like and what it plays out. And that's another thing you could talk about that. Is Texas getting rid of Jamie French's NIL, to add it to Cam Coleman? You can speculate that all you want. You know what I mean? And I'm here for it because I definitely think he is a guy that obviously comes in as immediate number one wide receiver for a team that needs an immediate number one wide receiver. Personally, I feel pretty good about it. I'm gonna walk you through my personal timeline of events. Now he comes to Texas first. I think that's really, really good news. As Evan mentioned, it's hard to turn down an opportunity to play for Arch Manning. You have to think like, oh yeah, I mean, you're locked to be a top 15, top 20 pick at absolute worst. As long as, you stay healthy, you're going to come in, you're going to kill it. You really are. I mean, Sark's job is going to get easier with a Cam Coleman. Arch's job is going to get easier with a Cam Coleman. The running game is going to help. It's going to be benefited a little bit by adding a Cam Coleman because he can take the top off the defense. But at the end of the day, like, you got to make sure he's in the bag, and you got to make sure that he's not an Aggie or a Red Raider. And again, we play Alabama this year. So he leaves. I wasn't too worried because you start to hear, he definitely just wants to take all his visits. He was committed to A&M for a while. His old wide receiver coach is at Alabama. All that makes sense. But him leaving College Station, to me, that, uncommitted, that was huge because I think A&M's been pretty good since Jimbo was there. And I think Elko's learned a few ways. But they're pretty good at shutting down some of the elite prospects while on campus and kind of, moving them off of their timeline or doing it in a way that's unexpected to the rest of the college football world. And so that, even though for a guy that he had just left Texas and I was like, oh, he wants to take all his visits, I was still a little bit worried about that. And then you bring in the fact that, oh, you're talking about Texas has Arch Manning in their back pocket. Then you have Marcel Reed for Texas A&M. And it's still maybe Marcel takes another little bit of a jump as a passer. He's not going to be Arch Manning next year, and I don't think he's going to be anywhere near it. I don't care if the numbers were close for a certain time at this year. Two completely different players in my mind. But so then you talk about Texas Tech. All right. I've seen comments about, hey, if he goes to Texas Tech, he's going to absolutely eat, which he would. He would. He's going to be a top 15 pick, which he would. But that just feels almost like a cop-out to me. It just feels too easy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go play against the best. And that's just my personal, like, handicapment of this recruitment. And so I just, and obviously you'd find out a lot about the guy, depending on where, if you were to commit to a Tech versus maybe an A&M or a Texas. But so just Tech does have, the ability right now to come out and they can offer some crazy amount and that really gets your attention. And it's significantly more than anybody else is offering. So, you can't ever rule that out with those guys. But I don't know. It just doesn't feel to me personally like Cam Coleman is a Big 12 type cat. Like he's going to go in there and play and against inferior competition. This isn't a Big 10 versus SEC competition. The Big 12 is still very clearly inferior to the SEC. So yeah, I mean, and now you're worried about Alabama. I believe the visit's tomorrow. I
thought we got in tonight, but maybe
okay. No, you might be right on that. So the visit tonight. And shout out Miss Nikki Rubel. I would sleep for a week if I could. But yeah, I mean, we'll see, because is that a courtesy visit to his old coach? Could he actually go from one side of the Iron Bowl to the other? But then again, them having the last visit, don't love that. As Isaiah Horton and his news of hitting the portal, does that make Alabama a little bit more desperate? Because I think that's the best wide receiver that's on that roster. people look at me like I'm crazy, but I
like Jeremy.
Yep, I like Isaiah, man. That's my guy. But yeah, we'll find out. And if it is a decision this weekend, hoping it's going Texas's way, because obviously there's a little bit of good vibes going on around about Cam right now, and think about what that would do, a boost in the arm of Texas's portal season, you know what I mean? Because it's been an interesting 7 days so far.
Yeah,
a lot of panic, a lot of overreactions, and I get it. I've done it myself. It's fun sometimes. But Cam Coleman, talk about a shot in the arm. Care to make a final prediction, or are you gonna wait and just stick with Eric 65-70%?
I think that they can put it over the line given all the money that's kind of leaving this program. And, I'll say it, the guys that are leaving, the last few ones, how many starters has Texas lost going into next year that aren't replaceable on this team so far? If Cam Coleman commits, the answer is 0. They've replaced running back. They already got Ty Anthony Smith at linebacker for LaFau, and then you got your wide receiver. So if they're able to get this Cam Coleman thing to work with the money without forfeiting a starter, I better hear some praise for Sark. And if not, I know he'll get a lot of crap, but this is a hard commitment to win. It's going to be the hardest one for any school to win in the transfer portal. And whoever wins, congrats, you just got an elite player. But if they do get this, and I think they do, give him his flowers, because that's a great piece of roster building if they can do that. And then, like all you guys are talking about, O-line and linebacker, get that payload in, and you're talking about a really good team going into next year.
They would be the title favorites. That they absolutely would be, without a doubt. I'm just saying what national media odds makers will 110% have Texas again as a title favorite. You did mention a linebacker. We're going to bring this comment up from my guy Pablo. Any linebackers out there like the cat that chose Ohio State? That one stung me personally. I wasn't just absolutely begging Texas to take that guy. That is not me coping. Again, I know a lot more about offensive film than I do defensive film. But what are your thoughts on that, Evan? It's Texas. Obviously they have the Cal contingency. But any other names or possibilities, scenarios you're hearing at linebacker for Texas?
I've heard some names that I don't think is fair for me to say out right now, because it's not guys in the portal where Texas is doing some Florida stuff. We'll just say that. But no, I think the guy that they're getting from Cal is probably a little bit better than Allegro from Wisconsin. But you want a dude at linebacker, because I think that the Wisconsin, now Ohio State guy was 250, 6'3", 6'4", kind of that one of those Big Ten go and get the ball. Be nasty. I think it fits for him to go to Ohio State and for Texas to get this Cal guy. I'll keep calling him Olave because I don't really know how to pronounce his name, like Chris Olave. So they really need to get that guy committed and then look for a second guy. I would also be fine with Bo Barnes being that second guy. I would still prefer one more piece of depth after that. That's me being greedy. But go get Cal and Barnes, and we're feeling much better about this linebacker room.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I agree. I think one more body, would be needed in that room just for depth purposes.
Yeah.
DKW, he's on it. You still do have to, you got to talk about depth, and you still have to have it, especially when you're playing 8 straight conference games to end the season, turn around potentially playing in Atlanta or for college football playoffs. And that's not me trying to get ahead of ourselves, but let's be real. And those are the goals for this university and program. And it's safe to say, that there needs to be more depth there. I think you're right again, friend. We all need it, Ingrid. And let's start with pulling in some O-line and Cam Coleman, and then we'll get greedy from there at linebacker, maybe somewhere else. Who knows? Hopefully this staff is turning over every rock, as I've said a billion times on Inside Texas in the last week, to find the absolute best guys to come and help this program from a depth standpoint, from a front-end starter standpoint. They've done a good job with special teams. Again, we talked about that last night, and so they're off to a good start. And now let's close it up and get the positions on both sides that we really, really need. All right, Evan, any final words before we get out of here, brother?
No, rooting for Miami. I think they're going to win this game. I'm very excited to see probably the two most chaotic coaches that could be coaching a Final Four game. There's a chance that one of them just loses the game for his team, and I'm so there for that if that's the case. That'd be a lot of fun, and I don't want to keep worrying y'all's time because of that.
No, I would say that's my biggest worry for Miami as well, or for Miami
Crystal
Ball lets them down. But time will tell. I'm about to go in there and watch it. Everyone have a good rest of your Thursday. We'll see you soon on Inside Texas.